Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Your English podcast, the perfect place to boost your English little by little with each conversation. Today, we're doing something a little different. Yeah, you, our listener, you've probably wondered how we actually put this podcast together, right? And maybe why we've chosen the structure you hear each time. Mm-hmm. So for this deep dive, we're kind of turning the microphone inward, you could say. We want to explore the anatomy of your English podcast itself.
Okay, I like that, an inside look.
Exactly. Our mission is really just to give you a clearer understanding of how each component, each little piece, is designed to support your English learning journey.
Precisely. And, thinking of it as like the blueprint of your learning tool, that's helpful.
Right.
We want to move beyond just delivering lessons and really help you see the strategic thinking behind every segment.
Makes sense.
Because grasping the why of our structure, we believe that can make you an even more effective and engaged learner. Ultimately, it should speed up your progress towards really thinking in English.
And we're your guides for this inside look today. And, both of us have navigated the ups and downs of learning English. It's not always easy.
Definitely not.
And that personal experience, that's really the foundation of why we created this podcast in the first place. Our goal has always been to make learning not just effective, but also, approachable and hopefully a little less daunting.
Yeah, less intimidating. Because our central aim, as you probably know by now, is to help you move beyond just memorizing rules and words.
Right.
We want you to actually start thinking directly in English. That's the true north of fluency, as they say.
I like that, true north.
So in this deep dive, we'll dissect the podcast structure, explain the thinking behind each section. And our belief is that really understanding this design will significantly boost your ability to make that really crucial cognitive shift to English thinking.
Okay, so let's kick things off right at the very beginning. The introduction. You hear that familiar splash screen, the music. It's the same every single time. What's the thinking there? Why that consistency?
Well, what's kind of fascinating here is the psychological principle of pattern recognition.
Okay.
That consistent opening. It acts like an auditory cue. Mm-hmm. It signals to your brain, okay, switch gears. Time to engage with English.
Ah, interesting.
It creates a predictable, sort of welcoming start to your learning session. Almost like a little ritual that prepares you mentally. Mm. Think of it maybe like the overture before a performance starts. Sets the stage.
That makes a lot of sense. It's almost like Pavlov's dogs, but for English learning. Laughs slightly.
Laughs in a way, yeah.
And then we briefly introduce ourselves and, often share a quick personal anecdote. Some listeners might think, that's just from friendly chat. Is there more to it?
Oh, definitely. The core idea there is building rapport. It's about fostering an emotional connection.
Right.
Learning a language, it can feel quite vulnerable sometimes, can't it?
Yeah, for sure.
So by sharing our own experiences, maybe a funny mistake we made or, a moment where something clicked, we're trying to make you feel understood. Mm-hmm. It's basically like saying, hey, we've been there too. We get what it's like. And that relatability, that can be a really powerful motivator. It makes the whole process feel a bit less isolating.
Right. It humanizes it. Shows we're just real people who've walked this same path.
Okay, and then we quickly state the episode theme and outline what you, the listener, will actually learn. Why is that brief overview so important right at the start?
Think of it as giving you a roadmap for the learning journey in that specific session.
Okay.
By clearly stating the focus, like today, we're focusing on the podcast structure itself and outlining the key takeaways. We set really clear expectations.
Got it.
This lets you approach the content with a specific goal in mind, right? It makes your listening more focused, more purposeful. If you know you're going to get practical strategies for thinking in English, for example, you're much more likely to actively engage with that part. That makes sense. Speaking of thinking in English, that's like a core theme for us, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Can you give us that concise aha moment again? Why is it so crucial?
Okay, well, think of translation as like a detour on your mental highway.
Okay, yeah.
Thinking directly in English is the direct route, the express lane. When you're constantly translating back and forth, you're creating this unnecessary extra step.
Right.
And that just slows down your processing speed and hinders fluency. It makes everything harder.
It really does.
So training your brain to connect concepts directly with English words and grammar, that's like building a faster, more efficient neural pathway.
That detour analogy, it really hits home for me. I distinctly remember when I consciously tried to stop doing that mental translation. It felt so awkward at first, really clunky, but then suddenly my speaking became so much smoother.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just about speaking faster, it was feeling more confident. Just expressing thoughts directly in English without that filter.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the mechanics of speaking either. It fundamentally shifts your comprehension too.
Oh, so?
Well, when you're not constantly filtering everything through your native language, you start to pick up on the nuances, the intonation, the natural flow of English much more intuitively.
Ah, okay.
So you finally start hearing the music of the language, not just decoding the individual notes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And we often ask listeners that question, don't we? What is your most noticeable barrier to thinking in English? What's the real intent behind asking that directly?
That question is a very deliberate prompt for metacognition.
Fancy word.
Chuckles. It just means thinking about your own thinking. By encouraging you, the listener, to pinpoint your specific challenges, you become a much more active participant in your own learning.
Right, you take ownership.
Exactly. It's the first step towards developing targeted strategies to overcome whatever your specific hurdles are. It's really about empowering you to become a more self-aware and therefore a more effective language learner.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's talk about those hurdles. What are some of the common roadblocks people hit on this journey to thinking in English? What mistakes do we often see?
Well, one really significant one is that over-reliance on translation.
The crutch.
Exactly. It's a natural crutch, especially early on. We get that. But constantly translating word for word, it keeps your brain sort of tethered to your native language.
Yeah.
It prevents it from developing those independent English thought patterns. It really is like trying to swim while you're still tied to an anchor.
That's a great image. Another one I see a lot is learners getting really bogged down by grammar.
Oh, yes. The grammar fear.
Totally. The fear of making even a tiny grammatical error can be just paralyzing.
It can.
People become so focused on achieving perfection that they hesitate, they don't speak, they don't even think freely, and that actually stops them from acquiring the language naturally.
Exactly. It's a classic case of, perfection being the enemy of progress. Language learning, fundamentally, it's about communication. And yes, accuracy is important eventually. But fluency, the ability to just express yourself, that comes from practice. And it comes from being willing to make mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
That fear just creates a massive mental block.
Definitely. And then there's the whole environment factor, isn't there?
Huge factor.
If you're not regularly immersing yourself in English, listening, reading, even just trying to speak it a little, it's incredibly difficult to cultivate that English thinking mindset. Your brain just doesn't get enough exposure to the natural rhythms, the structures, the feel of the language.
Think of immersion as like creating fertile ground.
Okay.
Like preparing the soil for English thinking to take root and actually flourish. Without that consistent exposure, those seeds of English thought, they really struggle to grow.
Right.
That's why we're always encouraging you, find ways, any ways, to integrate English into your daily life, no matter where you are.
And within the podcast itself, we try to build in moments that encourage this kind of active engagement, right? Like when we suggest reflecting on your own common mistakes. Why do we emphasize that self-analysis piece?
Because self-awareness is just such a powerful catalyst for improvement.
Right.
By consciously noting down, maybe analyzing your recurring errors, you start to really understand your specific weak spots. And then you can actively focus on addressing them. It transforms mistakes from being, sources of frustration into valuable data points for your learning journey.
Turning negatives into positives. I like it. We also sometimes pose questions on social media about common mistakes. How does that fit into the bigger picture?
Well, that serves a few purposes, actually. Firstly, it helps us, as the podcast creators, understand the collective challenges our listeners are facing.
Right. Feedback for us.
Exactly. Which lets us tailor future content more effectively. Secondly, it fosters a real sense of community.
Yeah, that's important.
When you see that other learners are grappling with similar issues, it can be incredibly validating. It makes you feel less alone. And motivating, too.
Definitely.
And finally, it just provides a platform for shared learning. People share tips, solutions. It becomes a learning space itself.
And it's just so important for you, the listener, to remember that mistakes are absolutely a natural part of this whole process. They're not something to be ashamed of at all.
Not at all.
That's why we often sprinkle in those little encouraging messages, It's okay to make mistakes.
Absolutely. Framing mistakes as learning opportunities is just crucial for maintaining a positive, resilient mindset. It's all about creating a safe space where you feel comfortable experimenting with the language, without that constant fear of judgment.
Okay, absolutely. Now let's get down to the really practical stuff. What are some concrete step-by-step strategies that you, our listener, can implement, like right now, to start shaping your thinking in English?
Okay, one of the simplest, but honestly most effective techniques is to consciously name the objects around you in English.
Just look around the room.
Yeah. Look at your surroundings right now. Mentally label everything you see. This is a lamp, that's a desk, computer, window, whatever.
Okay.
This starts building that direct, automatic association between the physical object and the English word, completely bypassing the need for translation.
It's like creating a little mental English dictionary of your immediate environment.
Exactly. Another really powerful strategy is to engage in self-talk in English.
Talking to yourself might feel weird at first.
It might. But describe what you're doing, or what you're thinking, or what you're planning for the day. All in English, inside your head, or even quietly aloud if you can. This internal monologue is fantastic practice for constructing sentences in real time using the English you know.
Okay. What else?
Well, something that's truly insightful, I think, is the benefit of using an English dictionary.
Instead of English to your native language.
Yes. Resist that urge to immediately look up a word in your native language dictionary.
Why is that so important?
Because by forcing yourself to understand the meaning through English definitions, through English examples, you immerse yourself much more deeply in the English context. You strengthen those direct neural connections we talked about. You're staying in English.
Right, avoiding that detour again. And hey, don't feel pressured to start thinking in like super complex sentences right away, correct?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Start simple, begin with short, clear phrases, and gradually build from there. Focus on clarity first, just getting your basic thoughts across in English. That builds a really strong foundation.
Okay.
And you know those short audio snippets we often include, where you and I might model a simple, everyday conversation or maybe some internal thoughts in English?
Yeah, the inner voice
segment. Exactly.
Yeah.
The purpose of that inner voice of the English speaker segment is just to provide an auditory example. Like, how might native or fluent speakers process thoughts and formulate sentences in common situations? It gives you a kind of template to maybe emulate.
A model to follow. And of course, we just can't overstate the importance of immersing yourself in English content, can we?
Never. It's fundamental. Change your phone language to English. Watch movies, maybe start with subtitles in English, then try without.
Listen to English language podcasts, like this one.
Laughs, hopefully like this one. And music. Read English books, articles, websites, anything. Constant exposure just normalizes the language.
Yeah.
It allows you to absorb vocabulary and grammar structures almost unconsciously.
It seeps in.
It really does. And to make these strategies feel more tangible, more immediate, we often incorporate those little mini vocabulary exercises, right?
Yeah, where we ask you to describe something simple.
Exactly. Maybe describe a scene or name a few objects and say something about them in English. These are designed purely to provide immediate opportunities to apply the concepts we've just been discussing. Put it into practice right away.
And all these kind of daily habits, these little actions, they lead us nicely into the idea of more dedicated thinking exercises. What kind of practices can you build into your daily routine?
Okay, one really powerful habit is to consciously start and end your day with just a few thoughts in English.
How does that work?
Well, before you even get out of bed, just think about your plans for the morning in simple English sentences. Okay, first I'll brush my teeth, then I'll make coffee.
Right.
And then before you go to sleep, maybe reflect on your day for a minute or two, again using simple English sentences. Today was busy. I finished that report. I need to call my friend tomorrow. It's about framing your day in English.
Starting and ending in the target language. I like that.
Another effective exercise is to mentally outline your daily schedule in English.
So thinking ahead.
Yeah. Think about the tasks you need to do, who you might talk to, where you need to go. All described in simple English sentences, just in your mind. I have a meeting at 10, then I need to go to the shop for milk.
And the key is integrating these into your existing routine, isn't it? So it doesn't feel like extra homework.
Exactly. That's crucial for making it stick. Maybe during your commute or while you're having breakfast or just before bed, dedicate a few moments specifically to thinking in English.
Like during breakfast, you could think?
You could think, I am eating toast and drinking orange juice. After this, I will check my emails for anything urgent. Simple, present tense, describing your reality.
And we sometimes include those short, guided mental practices, almost like mini meditations.
Yes, where we might walk you through a brief scenario or maybe verbalize a to-do list, all in English.
Right.
Think of it as a little workout for your English thinking muscle. It helps solidify the habit in a more structured way. And honestly, the more consistently you do any of these exercises, the more automatic that English thinking will become over time. It really builds up.
It becomes second nature eventually.
Hopefully. Now, shifting to thinking in English is also about creating some conscious habits throughout your entire day, not just in those dedicated moments.
Okay, like what?
Well, consider setting a rule for yourself. Maybe trying to actively avoid translating anything for a specific period each day. Say, 30 minutes.
Just force yourself.
Kind of. Force your brain to engage directly with English without the safety net of translation for that short window. It can be quite revealing.
Interesting. And you mentioned self-talk earlier.
Yeah, making a habit of talking to yourself in English, actually describing your actions as you perform them, it can be surprisingly effective.
Like narrating your life.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Okay. Now I am opening the fridge. I am looking for the milk. Here it is. Narrating your life in simple English helps internalize sentence structures and vocabulary in a really practical, context-rich way.
Find those everyday opportunities then.
Exactly. Look for them constantly. When you're cooking, try to think about the ingredients and the steps in English. First, I chop the onions. When you're cleaning, describe what you're doing. I'm wiping the table now.
Even just walking down the street.
Yeah. Try to name things you see in English. That's a red car. There's a tall building. Those people are waiting for the bus. Keep that internal monologue going.
We've often used that gym analogy, haven't we?
We have, because it fits so well.
Yeah.
Your English language skills, especially your thinking skills, they're like a muscle. They need regular exercise to grow stronger. Consistent, daily practice, even if it's just in small bursts. That's what leads to real lasting improvement in your ability to think directly in English.
Little and often is key.
Absolutely. And to help you track your progress, see how far you've come, and stay motivated, consider keeping a language learning diary.
What would you put in that?
Note down your successes. Hey, I managed to think in English for 5 minutes straight today. Note down challenges you faced. I really struggled to describe X without translating. Maybe jot down new vocabulary or phrases you picked up and try to use in your thoughts.
So, reflecting on the journey.
Exactly. Reflecting on your journey provides really valuable insights and keeps you focused.
Okay, and applying English in actual real-life situations, that's kind of the ultimate goal, isn't it? Taking that internal thinking outwards.
It is. It's about taking that internal English thinking you've been practicing and using it in your daily interactions, however small.
Even tiny things.
Especially tiny things. Ordering your coffee in English, asking for directions, trying to follow an English recipe without constantly checking a translation. These small acts reinforce the habit and build confidence.
Yeah, those little wins add up.
They really do. And sometimes in the podcast, we might share examples or stories, perhaps hypothetical, of how incorporating these small changes has led to noticeable improvements for other learners.
Right, showing the payoff.
Exactly. It's about showing you that these strategies have tangible benefits. And that language diary we mentioned, it becomes your personal record of that growth. It documents your unique journey in a really meaningful way.
And reviewing it is important too, I guess.
Oh, definitely. Regularly reviewing those diary entries allows you to see how far you've actually come, which can be incredibly motivating when you feel stuck. Mm-hmm. You can identify patterns in your learning, maybe spot recurring errors you need to work on, and just generally reinforce your progress. It's a powerful tool for self-monitoring and keeping that motivation high.
Makes sense.
And, to build that community feeling we talked about, sometimes we might invite you to share, say, short audio recordings of your English practice on social media, maybe using a specific hashtag.
Get feedback.
Potentially, yeah. Or just encouragement from fellow learners. It connects you with others on the same path.
Okay, now let's pivot slightly. Let's talk about those moments when you just get stuck.
Yeah, the frustrating moments.
We know it happens. You can't find the right word, or your native language just keeps creeping back in. What advice do you have for overcoming those specific difficulties?
Well, first, it's crucial to just acknowledge that initially it will feel more natural to think in your native language. That mental translation habit is often deeply ingrained.
It's the default setting.
It is. So be patient with yourself. Understand that shifting to thinking primarily in English takes time, and it takes consistent conscious effort. Don't beat yourself up if it feels hard.
And please remember, mistakes are not failures. Say it again.
Mistakes are not failures. They are simply opportunities to learn and grow. Honestly, both of us have made countless mistakes on our English learning journeys.
Oh, tons. Embarrassing ones sometimes.
Me too. But those very mistakes have often been our most valuable teachers in the long run.
True. Okay, so a practical technique. When you don't know a specific word in English.
Okay, yeah. Instead of immediately reaching for the translator, try to describe its meaning using simpler English words that you do know.
Circumlocution, right. Talking around it.
Exactly. So if you don't know the word screwdriver, you might think or say, it's the tool you use to turn screws. It has a handle and a metal point.
Ah, okay.
This forces you to think around the concept in English, keeping you in the language, rather than just bailing out immediately with translation. It's great practice.
That's a really useful one. And make sure you acknowledge and, celebrate even the small victories, right?
Oh, absolutely crucial for motivation. Every single time you catch yourself thinking in English, even if it's just for a brief moment, or you manage to describe something without translating, that's a step forward.
Pat yourself on the back.
Yes. Recognize those small wins. They help build momentum and confidence, which fuels more effort.
And while progress might feel slow sometimes, especially at the beginning,
remember that consistency really is the key. Just stick with your daily practice, whatever form it takes. Even 5-10 minutes counts. You will see results over time.
It's gradual.
It's a gradual process, definitely. But the cumulative effect of that consistent effort is really significant. It adds up.
So I guess to wrap up this whole section on overcoming difficulties, the main message is every single mistake is genuinely a chance to get better.
Exactly. Embrace the challenges, see them as part of the journey, and just keep practicing.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. Let's try to quickly summarize the key takeaways from this deep dive into your English podcast.
Right. So we looked at the why behind our introduction, setting the stage, building rapport. We talked about the critical importance of shifting your thinking into English, moving away from constant translation.
We covered those common pitfalls to avoid, like grammar fear and lack of immersion.
Yeah, and then we got into actionable strategies, naming objects, self-talk, using an English dictionary, starting simple.
Plus those daily exercises, starting and ending the day in English, planning your day, using downtime.
And integrating it all into daily life, using the gym analogy, keeping a diary.
And finally, how to tackle difficulties, embrace mistakes, and use techniques like describing unknown words.
Phew. Yeah, that covers the main points of the structure and the reasoning behind it.
So our final encouragement to you listening right now is just be patient with yourself. Really embrace the learning process, bumps and all.
Absolutely. And commit to that consistent daily practice. Even small steps, remember. Every step you take, no matter how small it feels, is moving you closer to your goal of thinking more fluently and naturally in English.
We genuinely value your engagement with us and the podcast. Please do share your thoughts, your own experiences, any questions you might have about our structure or about your own journey towards thinking in English. Leave them in the comments.
We love hearing from you. And if you found this deep dive into how we make the podcast helpful, please consider subscribing so you don't miss future explorations like this one.
Yeah, and if you know others who are also on their English learning journey, maybe struggling with the same things, please do share your English podcast with them. Spread the word.
Definitely. And just a little teaser, in our next deep dive, we're planning on delving into the nuances of pronunciation, how to develop a more natural-sounding English accent.
Ooh, that's a big one. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, should be interesting.
Well, thank you so much for diving deep with us today. We really appreciate you being a part of the Your English podcast community.
Thank you all for listening.